In the past, divorce was regarded as a shameful thing by many people, more so in our clime. Marriage was assumed to be a sacred institution where once a woman steps into it, it is not expected, she's not expected to look back again. Now, good or bad, it is her cross to bear till death do them part. But interestingly, the story has changed and rapidly too, because people walk out of their marriages for the flimsiest of reasons. So now, for us to discuss on and understand these issues on why marriages are not working, we have in the studio with us Mrs. Ginikwa Okoha, a certified relationship and marriage counselor and founder of AIM, that's Alliance for the Improvement of Marriage, in the studio with us to discuss on this particular topic. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak Extra today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so first of all, what I want you to actually talk about in the beginning, is what makes a healthy marriage and why is it so difficult for people to actually have a healthy marriage?
First of all, for you to have a healthy marriage, the individuals have to be healthy. Healthy in terms of mental health, emotional health, in terms of self-awareness, knowing themselves, their expectations of what they would want in their marriage, their boundaries, and also their deal breakers. A lot of people don't know what their deal breakers. For some people, it's infidelity. For others, it could be abuse. So if you don't know what your deal breakers are, then you wouldn't know what would trigger you to stay or to leave. And also commitment, and also understanding why you want to get married, and also understanding why your partner wants to get married. And that way, both of you know what your goals are for the marriage. And that's why a lot of people don't stay in good marriages.
Well, what would you say is the most, over your years of experience, what would you say is the most common reason that comes up for people who want a divorce?
Lack of commitment, communication, infidelity, inconsiderable differences.
Okay.
Yes, that's usually most of it. But like you said in the beginning, a lot of people are now having flimsy reasons for leaving. And that boils down to not knowing why they got married in the first place and not having a solid foundation from the beginning.
Okay, well, what's the flimsiest of reasons that you've actually heard or know of?
Oh, we've just grown apart.
Oh, irreconcilable
Yes,
differences.
Doesn't that happen, growing apart?
It does, growing apart, it does. But then, which boils down to commitment. You can't, because people change, we grow. I'm not the same person that I was, earlier in the marriage.
Definitely.
But when you grow, and that's what marriage is supposed to be. Marriage is supposed to help you and your partner achieve that purpose in life. And sometimes we don't know what our purpose is in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's what growth is. So when you're committed, you're not, okay, I have grown, but then I am still willing to be in this marriage to still grow in the marriage or to help my partner regardless of our differences.
Okay, but then how common is divorce in Nigeria? What was it that our parents were doing back then that we can't seem to, do right now? Because if you look at it, a lot of people actually think, divorce isn't that common because it's social media that makes you feel like, everybody wants a divorce or divorce is common, but it's not that common or as common as you might think.
Okay, yes, it's not as common as it was back then with our parents. But then the reason why we hear it a lot now is because we're more vocal now thanks to social media. Back then there was nothing like social media. So it was, kept in the homes. And back then our families, we had the stigma was still there. Religious stronghold in the church was still there. So in as much as most couples didn't want to stay together back then, they just stayed because of these
For the
reasons.
children.
But now things have different. You know, we have gender equality now, liberation, women, feminism. People are talking. So this self-awareness has its own negative impact now because people are being selfish,
Yes.
thinking of themselves. So this is what I want. I'm not getting it. Let me just leave. You know. So divorce is in the increase down is it's worse than it was before, but I wouldn't say that it wasn't there back then.
as well.
Just that we weren't more vocal then.
How do you know your relationship is healthy enough for you to move to marriage? Like, because sometimes in the beginning everything is all rosy and everything is nice, it's going all well.
Honeymoon
The
phase.
minute you get married, after the honeymoon, it's like you don't even know the person you married again. Everything changes. So how do you know that, okay, things look good now, but will things continue to look this good? Like, even though, yes, things might shift sideways, but will they always be this good, or do I just try my luck somewhere else?
During that relationship phase, the in love phase, where the chemical reactions, we're dealing with chemical, people think that, oh, they're in love, but that phase is usually the attachment phase, and it lasts between 1 to 3 years. Now, a lot of people don't really concentrate in getting to know themselves during that period. They are focused on the dreams, the ideas of what the marriage should look like, not actually putting in the work. I do a lot of premarital counseling, and in my counseling, there are worksheets that I give to the couples, questionnaires, making them ask themselves necessary questions. A lot of people think, oh, if they're in a relationship, if they ask certain questions, they look desperate.
Yes.
But it's not it. You're trying to create a foundation to know if this person is right for you. So a lot of people don't do that. They believe, oh, it would happen.
I don't want to push
I don't want
away.
to push them away. You know, it will happen and all. But no. And you need to ask the right questions, and that's what they don't. And then when they get in, and then that whole idea of they will change. When we get married, my partner will change. Marriage doesn't change you.
Yes.
You change, and your partner can't change you. Change happens within. And first of all, for you to change, you have to be aware that there is something that you need to change. You have to accept that, okay, there is something wrong, and then I will change. But if you don't, it's not going to happen.
Okay, so what's the difference between divorce and separation?
Separation, and this is something that I always encourage, especially when it's in a toxic, it's when you live in separate homes for a while. And in that time, you're still communicating, but with the intent to make it work. The only reason why you're leaving is because it's become toxic for your health, for your mental health and all. So, and then also for the children. So that's why separation is good. Divorce, on the other hand, is when, you decide, okay, we are not going to be married. So you go through the whole legal system by doing the divorce and all that. But, before you get to divorce, you have to be separated for like 2 years before you can be officially.
Legally?
Yes, legally. Traditional, you just you just go and knock on the door and return the money. Yes. So
I was going to ask, what are those questions? The ones you said people are afraid to ask that make them look desperate.
Your long-term goals. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Because I know oftentimes on Twitter people have said, why would you be eating a meal and somebody is asking you your long-term goals? Like, can you just wait? When we get there, we'll cross the bridge.
No.
People have had that argument that it's too early. If maybe you're seeing the prospect of marriage, then you now start asking, what are your long-term
And then,
goals?
you see, that's the problem. You're waiting to see the prospect, but then you've already fallen deeply while waiting. And then if you're sexually active, you get pregnant, and then you don't have a choice. You're getting married. But there's no such thing as it's too early to ask us. I mean, if you're on the first date, hello, hi.
Yeah, you have to
The-
ask all the questions
yeah.
necessary.
Yes, so that you can know
Every
Some
question.
people find it very
if that
intrusive.
person, if it finds, then it's not
There
worth.
is- yeah.
Yes, that's why I tell my premarital couple, if you're asking and the person is uncomfortable, that is a sign. That is
Red
a sign.
flag.
Yeah, yes, yes, it is.
All right. So, but you know, when it comes to divorce, you know, it has to be between two people that are willing. What if one person isn't
not
ready?
willing.
What
Yes.
happens in that case?
That's usually the sad part. But then it takes two to make it work. That's the funny thing. If one person is already out, mentally, physically, there's really nothing you can do. I mean, praying and all that,
What
yeah.
advice do you usually give couples, you know,
Who do
in that situation?
in that situation? I mean, because there's the option of, okay, just wait, maybe they'll come around. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But then when you're so sure that they're not, there's really nothing.
you
Yeah.
do.
Yes, there's really nothing because I mean, I've had cases like this where the woman is actually the one who isn't interested in the marriage anymore.
Well, I don't know. For some reason, it's always like that. Why is it that the women are like once they make up their mind, they are so solid about it? For like the men, you know, they might want to consider, but most times I've noticed with women that are divorced, there's no going back for them in that
Yeah.
marriage. Like they are done, they are done. But with the men, you could see that even if they say they are done, at some point they try to look for room for reconciliation. But with women, they lock up like, I'm done with this marriage.
Yeah.
I'm
You know,
done.
before women get to that point, they must have taken a whole lot.
Yeah.
Before they get to that point of no return, they must have dealt with the whole lot, taking a whole lot, you know. And a lot of men don't, you know, try to solve the problem when it starts. It's when it's too late. They're like, okay, I want to save her, but then she has already
Definitely.
gotten there. And then other times, influence, you know, especially if the woman is working, she's earning her pay, she feels, I can do better, I can sustain myself, I don't need, you know, that's why.
Okay, so now, you know, for every discussion, you know, there's always this question, who is to be blamed for the rate of divorce? Because you have,
Yeah, I
you
was
know,
going to
before
ask.
let's talk about the lady now. Before she actually gets married, there's so much pressure on her to, you know, get married, you know, even if she knows the person isn't right for her, but just to please her parents, you know. And even while you're in the marriage, as a lady, you have so much going on. You can't even, you know, talk to your parents because you know what they will tell you to do is stay in the marriage, even if it's
Make it
abusive.
work.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So, you know, who is to be blamed for, you know, such or the high rate of divorce
Both.
in Nigeria?
Husband and wife.
Not parents. Where does the mom or the parent actually come in? Where do they come in?
Okay, I mean, yes, so at the beginning, parents put in that pressure, African parents putting that
I
pressure.
want grandchildren. No.
You're
Yes.
even going too far. Before they want grandchildren, I just want you to be married. My friend's daughter
friend's
is
daughter,
getting
yes.
married. Ah,
But then that is why we're educating people now, especially young ladies, not to be pressured into marriage. Yes, you know, but then at the end of the day, you're the adult. So you should take the responsibility, not the parents.
Yeah, but aside that, don't you think it's quite tricky because for a woman, her biological clock, you know, keeps ticking, especially if she wants to have children.
because
So
I feel like
aside
if you're,
aside
if
the
you're pressured
parents,
to marry
yes, aside
someone you don't want to and then it ends up in a divorce, I'm going to blame it on the person that pushed me there
Yeah,
in the first
but
place.
the thing and I always say is marriage is not our goal in life. Marriage isn't our purpose in
Thank
life.
you.
So that whole
Thank
you must get married. I don't believe everybody must get married. I don't believe everybody should get married. You have to be ready.
Get
You know,
married.
we all have our individual purpose. Now, marriage is something that God has designed to help you achieve that purpose that He has given you, which is why you need to first know why you've been created and then now find that person that should help you achieve that purpose. If you believe you haven't found the person, please don't get married. And then if you are being pressured by your parents and then you end up marrying the wrong person, yes, you have every right to blame your parents, but then you're an adult. You should also take the responsibility too. Because some arranged marriages have worked. Yes, they have. Some marriages, blind dates, they have worked because they were committed.
Okay, so when couples are actually going through, stuff, in their marriage, would you say marriage therapy is an absolute solution?
I don't know about absolute, but it is. It is one of it. It is. I am. We're trying to encourage couples to go for counseling, and you don't have to wait for there to be for a problem to be there for you to start counseling. That's why there's premarital and just for communication, because everybody has communication issues. It is given, no matter how sweet your marriage is, you would have because these are two different individuals, with different perspectives and beliefs and ideas. So there's bound to be communication issues, and so many other things. So therapy is good, and to be surprised, a lot of men are the ones calling me for counseling. Yes.
Wow.
This year.
It means they're willing to make it work.
Yes. This year, if I say on
so
a scale of
proud.
1 to 10, I'm getting 8 calls from men.
Wow.
And it's amazing.
How important is patience when it comes to relationship? Because people are very so
Quick
to
to.
I'm sorry, before you answer,
Yes.
there's patience and there's long suffering.
yes, and there's
there's
hope.
differentiate.
There's hope for things to get
differentiate
better. So, yes, very true. Please differentiate. Patience, having hope that things will change, and knowing when to just say, "I've tried. I've given it my best.
Exactly.
I'm not doing again."
Patience is, you putting in the work and waiting for it to harvest. When you sow seeds we call it investing. When you invest in your marriage, the patience that it would yield good things, good fruits. What did you call the other one? Long suffering. Long suffering is clearly, you can see that the foundation is wrong. Clearly, you can see that this person is not even not interested, is not you for you.
Okay.
Very toxic.
Very toxic. And you're praying, you're hoping.
You're still pushing.
You're
Everything
still
is upside
pushing.
down, but you're still going.
But you're still going. That's it.
Coming back to long suffering, how do you think family backgrounds add to this? Because there are people who come from homes where they've seen their mom hope
Long
on
suffer.
the long suffering. And when they are also in that situation, they're like, okay, my mom did this. Let me try and see. Let me try and please this person, do whatever the person wants, and let me just see how it works. So do you think like family background really plays an important role in how your marriage will be at the end of the day?
It plays a role in how you perceive the marriage should look like, which is why we're trying to, marriage counselors are trying to work with children psychologists, because children see things that play on in the marriage. And that's why we're trying to encourage, if your marriage is toxic, separate because of the children, because they're growing up to see, to believe that this is what a marriage should look like. And then when they grow up and then they get married, they exhibit the same thing that they have seen.
It's always funny. People always say we are doing it for the children.
All right, just before we move on, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Daybreak Extra. You're watching us on Trust TV. Here we are discussing relationships and we have Ginika and us in the house. So yes, back to what we were saying, children and their watching their parents, go through bad marriages, the effect it has on them. Because I feel like I've seen people who come out like their parents' marriages were not so great, but they that's why they put in the effort to make it work for their own. But some people are like, my parents' marriage was bad. Maybe marriage generally has its downside, so they are just relaxed in whatever states they meet their marriages.
Yeah, I mean, for the people who grew up in not so good homes, and then they decide to, do it differently. That means they learned. That means they are aware. That's the whole self-awareness and all. But for people who didn't, and that we call them childhood wounds. A lot of people don't recover from their childhood wounds before they go into the marriage. So if you've recovered from it, then you know, okay, I've healed from the trauma that I got staying in a toxic home, and I don't want that for my children. So you're intentional about that.
Okay, so you're talking about, the effects of, all this trauma on children. What about the effect of divorce on children and grandchildren?
Yeah, it has a really negative effect on children as well because, especially if they grow up to a certain age with their parents together, and then all of a sudden their parents are no more, and then divorce can be really dirty. Parents are so nasty to each other. The whole
back and forth
with exchanging words. Children, like my children need to stay with me,
or some just abandon their
responsibilities
completely.
Yes. So it has that negative effect on the kids.
Well, you said something about, especially after the parents have actually been together for a long time. So, but what are the consequences of a divorce after a long-term marriage?
On the kids?
On the family, the whole family.
On the family.
Yes, because, if it's short-term, after 2 years, some people after 72 days, divorced and all that.
Yes.
2 hours.
But once, a couple have actually been together for as long as 40 years, and they want a divorce, you actually find that happening.
Yes, I never really understand it.
Yes, I mean, there are consequences, but then so it all depends. If it's been a really bad, not really bad, uncomfortable marriage, or let's say the father is hardly ever at home, or the mother is, something, then maybe that divorce may be a good thing for the family. Sometimes I've seen divorced people who actually come out good.
They're happy.
Even the couples are good friends because they realize that they were better as friends than being married. So it all depends. I mean, but I always say if you are going to have a divorce, it's good to still allow the kids understand that it's not their fault and still portray a unified relationship between the parents.
Okay, now you talked about, some couples coming out, happier after divorce. But would you say divorce affects, the gender differently? Does it affect a man differently compared to the woman?
Does it? I mean, it depends. Yes, because, especially in African society, a man can easily get married again. He can even tomorrow.
Can marry 3 years
exactly. But the African mentality, oh, she's divorced. That's stigma. That's stigma already, and then especially depending on the age at which she left her home and how many kids, who would want to marry her again. And then her financial stability, can she afford to, keep it? That's why a lot of people are afraid to leave because of finances, fear.
But funny enough, you actually have a lot of divorced people getting married getting remarried compared to single ones.
Ones. Yeah.
Speaking of finances,
This question.
No, I'm really happy that she's here because every time this question is always being asked in group conversations, social media, how important is finances in a relationship? I don't mean marriage. I mean boyfriend and girlfriend. It's because
when you're cutting,
thank you. When you're courtship, how important? Because people are always like, oh, it's when you're married that you should be looking at your partner's finances, not when you're cutting. Like it's not that important. If you're both doing well for yourselves individually, then you shouldn't bother to speak about finances or something like that.
Are you talking about asking for money?
No,
no,
like I'm just
knowing,
saying,
knowing like where, how he makes his money.
Yeah, just knowing that
how much he has.
Yes,
all those kind of things. Oh, it is very important. As long as your relationship is serious, not all those, let's go out for drinks, and then you're serious. Courting is, I presume, a relationship before marriage. So you're with this person with the intent to get married. You need to know how much he earns. You need to know how he spends it, because this behavior now tells you how he would carry on in the marriage. You need to know, because the little secrets, if he can hide these secrets, you don't know what kind of big secrets the partner, I'm not going to say he, even the woman, what kind of big secrets that your partner could be hiding. And it just gives you that sense of security to know that, okay, he's not a thief, he's not a 419 person, nobody's going to come and jack me one day, or he's not going to up and leave, or it is good to know.
So there's this popular thing that people have, that people always say, like men cheat. So nowadays, like if you're leaving your marriage because of infidelity, it's not really such of a big
excuse.
Yes, excuse. Like why? Because I've heard someone say, it's just cheating now, and he's a man, he cheated. Just forgive him and go back. Like as a relationship counselor, what's your take on that whole topic? Because I know people that say for them, cheating is
when
okay.
The man cheats.
When the man cheats, they'll forgive because he's a man. Maybe he's a
it's
man is
allowed.
Yes, it's the way they are, so he's allowed to cheat.
I don't like saying all men cheat and all that, but remember what I said about deal breakers.
Yeah.
If it's a deal breaker for you, at the beginning of that relationship, you say, cheating is a deal breaker for me. I can not take it if I hear or see you with another man or woman. I will walk. So your partner is aware that this is a deal breaker. For some people who say, I'll mention it, it's not a deal breaker for them. I mean, do you understand? So it's not a deal breaker maybe because they've seen their father do the same thing, or uncles and all that. So for them, but for some other people, it is a deal breaker. That's why for there's a lot of women who have been through infidelity, and you find them going crazy. And then, and then you're wondering, just that.
Yeah.
Only because you saw a text, it was a deal breaker for that person.
It was a trigger.
It was a trigger.
Okay, so but then as a counselor, right? How common is it for couples to actually think about divorce?
Now it's very common.
Yeah.
So if something doesn't work out next year,
because like isn't divorce supposed to be like the last option?
No, they throw it as a threat. I've had couples like 2-3 years. They will just be throwing, I will leave you, I will leave you, I will throw it. It's like a threat,
I will leave you.
And that's because the stigma has reduced.
Yes.
Back then, it was a taboo to even open your mouth and say you want to leave your home. Now, everybody's liberated. So it's very common, which is a very sad thing, because there are some issues that can be resolved if you put in the work, but they'll rather put in their energy into making more money than the marriage.
Okay. Do you have any final question to ask before we leave?
No. I'm trying to take in everything she has said, so that when next I'm in a relationship conversation, I will just say word for word, word for word.
So just before we wrap up, do you have any final words?
Yes. Relationship, marriage is hard. There's no lie about that. But it takes commitment to make it work. It takes you understanding your expectations and having a vision that what that is what helps build a solid foundation for marriage. Knowing what it is you want, so that whatever arguments that you have, you know, okay, does it align with our vision for our marriage? And that's why a lot of divorces happen, because there's no vision. They don't align. And for you to have that, a healthy marriage, have a vision, lay out your expectations, and invest. Go on dates. Couples don't go on dates.
Yeah.
They don't bond.
They don't.
Everybody's hustling and looking for this
Or
money.
taking care of the children. They're
Or
so
taking of the
busy doing
children.
stuff.
Yes.
Yes, but you can't blame them, because they've also made it look like without this money, because it's either you have the money or you have the marriage. Like, in a way, that's the way society makes it look. If you don't have money,
We've
at
become
least
very
be married.
But you
materialistic.
can
That's the
have
thing.
the money and the marriage.
And then
as well.
yes.
You can have both.
See,
you should
human
never
beings
be too
have
tired
become
for family.
human beings have become
No,
materialistic.
it's not even about being tired. You just want to make sure that it's a form of self-security, having that money. It's like, so that if anything happens, that's your backup plan.
But you see, that's the thing.
people
We're
would
looking
always
for
say,
huge money. We're
I would
looking
rather
for
cry in a-
accounts with billions. That's
Yes,
the
now,
problem.
Rather
I
than
would
being
rather
content.
cry in
Yes.
Dubai than
Be
cry in
content.
Nigeria.
Being content. That's the thing. Be content.
I want more money.
That's a problem already.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much,
Thank you
Mrs.
for
Gini
having me.
Kamwao Koha. It was an absolute pleasure having
Same
you on
here.
the show today.